規定。
Government Bills, first reading, Statute Law, Miscellaneous Provisions, Bills 2026, Medical Registration Amendment Bill 2026, Northern Metropolis Development Bill, Employees Retraining Amendment Bill 2026. Second reading, Secretary for Justice. President, I move the second reading of the Statute Law, Miscellaneous Provisions Bill 2026. The Department of Justice has, where appropriate, introduced omnibus bill to take forward miscellaneous amendments to various statutory provisions in one go. This arrangement avoids the need to apply for separate legislative lots for ordinances that only involve a small number of amendments, thereby efficiently updating or improving the relevant legal provisions. This is part of government's ongoing work to consolidate and update Hong Kong's law. The proposed amendments in the bill can be broadly categorized into two groups. 1. Amendments not arising from the systemic review of statutory laws of Hong Kong, and 2. Amendments arising from the systemic review of statutory laws of Hong Kong. These amendments are mostly moderate, technical, and uncontroversial in nature. With regard to the second category of the proposed amendments, in 2022, the Law Reform Commission, LRC Secretariat, spearheaded the systemic review of the statutory law of Hong Kong, which consists of work mainly in three aspects. First, adaptation of laws. Second, consolidation of laws. And third, repeal of obsolete laws. The adaptation of law refers to the process of first identifying provisions for references to statute books that were in force in Hong Kong before the 1st of July 1997, but must, for the time being, be construed with such modifications, adaptations, and limitations, as well as exceptions as may be appropriate and necessary in compliance with the basic law and the status of Hong Kong as a SAR of the People's Republic of China, and second, thereafter amending them as necessary to properly reflect the policy intent of the relevant policy bureaus in the light of the resumption of the exercise of sovereignty over Hong Kong by the PRC. As far as the repeal of obsolete laws and consolidation of laws are concerned, the relevant provisions are not necessarily adaptation-related, and when ready for legislative action are also included in this bill. Since the PRC resumed the exercise of sovereignty over Hong Kong, the responsible policy bureau have been identifying provisions for references that require adaptation so as to incorporate such adaptation amendments into legislative amendments proposed by the government from time to time. Some of the provisions or references requiring adaptation are not obvious or require substantial effort to identify. Although most of the final proposed adaptation amendments turn out to be terminological or technical changes, they are very likely the outcome of thorough research and comprehensive review of the relevant historical and policy backgrounds. It is through such arduous and time-consuming work that we can confidently ascertain or verify why the existing provisions were so formulated or refined at the time. Under these circumstances, the responsible policy bureaus must scrutinize in detail, first, the original legislative intent of the provisions or references pending amendment. Second, the interrelationship with relevant provisions of different ordinances, as well as cross-references to other pieces of legislation that similarly require adaptation. Third, the input and involvement of various policy bureaus and departments on policy and or operational issues. And fourth, lastly, the consultation responses from the central authorities or organizations outside the government before they can robustly finalize the drafting instructions for the proposed adaptation amendments. In pushing ahead with the continued exercise to complete the adaptation of laws without undue delay, the government, in response to the systemic review of the statutory laws of Hong Kong, has adopted the approach of dealing with simple issues before the difficult ones. The DOJ has successively introduced two omnibus bills on behalf of various policy bureaus in 2024-25 to prioritize adaptation of laws-related amendments in a collective manner, with each proposing amendments to over 100 ordinances. The bill proposed by the DOJ this time involves around 490 provisions, proposing amendments to about 150 ordinances. Amendments to over 130 ordinances arising from the systemic review, among which amendments to 77 ordinances are for the adaptation of laws. The current target is upon the responsible bureaus being able to resolutely have the drafting instructions issued as soon as practicable to strive for the completion of the adaptation of law exercise by the end of this term of government, that is the 30th of June 2027. The legislative proposals in this bill, coupled with other bills or subsidiary legislation amendment introduced by the relevant policy bureaus in a timely manner, are expected to achieve this goal. In this regard, with the coordination of the DOJ, various policy bureaus have also made their final efforts to amend the provisions under the purview. The relevant bureaus and bodies have consulted the relevant stakeholders who raised no objection. The DOJ also issued an information paper to the LegCo AGLSP in May this year. I also submit appeal members to support the bill. Thank you.
現在向各位提出嘅待議議題。
I now propose the question to you that the aforesaid bill be read the second time. In accordance with the rules of procedure, the second reading debate is adjourned and the bill is referred to the House Committee.
處理醫務
Secretary for Health.